introductions because we do have new people on our committee, and Representative Ballard is substituting for Representative Nguyen, and hopefully that will give her a little time to get here. I hope she knows, right?
Should be.
Okay. So we do have two new members. So very quickly, I thought we could just go around the room, introduce ourselves, your name, your district number, and one quick education connection that you have there. And there's Representative Ballard. Good. We'll start with Representative Schmoy on the end. Is she here? No. Okay. Then we'll start with you.
Good afternoon. I am Representative Wolf, and I cover the 107th District. I have part of Saline County, Ottawa County North, Cloud County North, and then west I have Mitchell County. I was in education for 15 and a half years at the Bennington School System.
I'm Lon Pishney. I'm a representative for District 122, which is out in southwest Kansas, 4 counties approximately. And my connections to education, I have 2 degrees in education, but my best connection is I have a wife who taught 40 years.
Sean Chauncey, District 65, which is Junction City, Milford, parts of Fort Riley. Ties to education, I'm a contractor, so I don't have a lot of ties to education too, except for my family's all involved with education back home.
Greg Wilson from the 70th District, be Abilene, Chapman, Solomon, Hope, White City. No, not White City. My wife taught at White City, and that's my connection. She taught for 22 years as a gifted educator.
I'm Representative Dr. Sherry Brantley. I am a 37-year educator from the 112th District in basically Barton County. I have a degree in elementary education, a master's in building leadership, a master's in ESOL elementary education, and a doctorate in educational leadership. I've taught at the university level in teacher ed. I've worked for TASN in Kansas, and I've taught about every grade level. Thank you.
That's a lot of things to follow. I am Representative Dr. Megan Steele, and I have originally have a nursing degree, but I've been in the field of education for 13 years, from public to private, elementary, all the way up into master's prepared nurses.
I'm Kyle McNorton, Representative 50th District, which is Northern Shawnee County, Rossville High School, Silver Lake High School, and Seaman High School, where I graduated from, and that's all I can say about my degrees is, anyways, I'm actually on the school board in my second term of the local Seaman School Board.
Thank you. I'm Susan Estes, and I have a degree in elementary education, and it's been a while, because once we start having children, I'm a proponent of paying teachers more, because at some point childcare was going to cost me more than I earned as a teacher, and I still am passionate about fixing that.
I'm Jerry Stogstall, and I represent the 21st District, which is primarily most of Prairie Village, Kansas, along with a bit of Overland Park. And I was a teacher back in the day, right before they invented dirt. And I taught at K-State for a couple of years in the education department. Then I was full-time NEA Shawnee Mission president for 3 terms before I did get out of education. But my biggest tie to education right now is my wife was a 40-year teacher and high school counselor, and she's not only my wife but one of my most vocal constituents. So I have to listen there. So thank you.
My husband feels your pain.
Well, the name tag. Good afternoon. The name tag says Representative Nguyen. I am not that individual. I am Barbara Ballard, and I am taking her place today because her husband is in the hospital, and I'm filling in. But in following with how I heard introductions, I am Barbara Ballard, and I'm a representative, and Dr. Ballard at the University of Kansas as well. Years ago, I was on this committee when I first became a legislator, but I'm taking her place, and I am a professor at the University of Kansas, and I'm glad to be filling in for Representative Nguyen today.
It's always a pleasure to have you.
Representative Jason Getz from the 119th District, which is Dodge City. For those of you who want to travel out west, we say get the heck into Dodge, not out of. Probably my best connection with education. I was a pastor for 20 years, so I was educating through the church system. I was a youth pastor in different roles, but my daughter is in her second year as a third grade teacher at Ross Elementary. So shout out to Jacqueline, great teacher.
I'm Representative Louis Ruiz. I represent the 31st District, Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County. And my connection to education is yes, my kids are educated.
Good afternoon. I'm Mark Schreiber, represent the 60th District, which is primarily Emporia and Northwest Lyon County. My connection is my wife, who got a degree in education from Emporia State when I first met her, and then decided she didn't like student teaching for some reason, and then became a CPA, retired from that, and then decided she liked teaching again, and ended up teaching kids and adults with dyslexia how to read.
I'm Linda Featherston. I represent the 16th District in Overland Park. It's the area that surrounds Johnson County Community College. I have a degree in music education. I am a piano teacher, and I am still teaching, and I am super duper proud to be the mom of the best music teacher in Shawnee Mission Schools up at Oak Park Carpenter, my daughter.
Hi, I'm Abby Boatman, and I represent District 86, which is situated generally in southeast Wichita. My connection to education is I am a college graduate and recently graduated a kid from East High and looking to graduate another one in a couple years.
Very good. And Representative Hubert, you get to finish us out. We're so nice to have a phone a friend. Your name, your district number, and one connection to education.
Okay. Steve Hubert, 90th District, Valley Center. I have a daughter who is a third grade teacher in Vermilion at Mays High School.
Very good, and former chair of the committee, so it's always nice to have you back. And now we'll go to Representative Schmoy, and since we gave you the phone a friend, I'll give it to her. Representative, your name, your district number, and one connection to education.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rebecca Schmoy. My district is 59, and that is almost all of Franklin County. My connection with this is that I was a paraprofessional in one of my local public school buildings, K through 5, and I worked with the highest of the high needs kids, and let me tell you that those are still my favorite people on the planet. They work harder than all of us, and they work harder than anybody else in the building. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to welcome you back. Glad to welcome a couple of people. Representative Wilson, did your wife come today?
She is in the building.
Okay, I ran into his wife last night, and since Representative Wilson replaced Representative Hill, and Mrs. Hill was our comfort provider in the room when you needed water or things like that, I let your wife, who's so sweet, know that she would be welcome to do that for us. It was very nice of me. So, all right. Our next item of business is to review rules. I do run a very tight ship, but I do it with the purpose of making sure that we all get equal time and give everybody a chance to speak. And I think we are a committee, and I told you guys this at the end of last year, that we talk about really hard things that we're all very passionate about, and we do it so well because we are respectful to each other. We never make it personal. We share time. I will continue to try to make sure I give everybody a chance to get one question before we go to a second question. And if you need to ask a quick yes or no question at the beginning of your question, let me know when you ask your question, and please don't ask a second question if I haven't given you that chance to do that. For the most part, our audiences, those citizens who are with us usually help us out, because when we have disruptions or we have shows of opinion from the audience, that takes away from the amount of time that I have to give other people to appreciate. And I've appreciated when Kansans have helped us to maximize that. I do want to clarify one thing on the committee rules, and I think it's the thing that I struggled with the most last year. On one hand, we were hearing a bill about taking images of children that were purely innocent and turning them into pornography, and I was very uncomfortable having children in committee without knowing that their parents were okay with it. But it also, I think, it kind of got to feel a little burdensome to me. So I think where I have leveled it out is if you are a student with the adult that you're supposed to be with, and obviously if with your family, I'm not going to question that. But everything that does come, and I do request that people continue to use the adult's contact information and not the child's. We don't want, anytime your testimony is out there, it becomes a public record and it is searchable. And I do want to shelter the contact information of children. And and they are children. It's more appropriate to talk to the adult. I do still have a concern that sometimes people show pictures and videos that when the parent gave permission, or the parent may not even know that that child is in that image, they may have never known that it was going to become a public record. So if it is a video or a photograph, I do want to talk about whether or not the parents or guardian signed a public release. Do I have any questions on the rules? I think that's the only rule change that I made. I may have made one other, which was on Mondays, because of the timing when the agenda comes out, I gave a couple of more hours for the testimony to come in on when a bill is going to be heard on Mondays. I appreciate everybody who's worked really hard to get their testimony in on time, because I'm really not going to make exceptions unless it's our fault, because there are times when we did and we were trying to be nice and we were here at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning, and we can't physically continue to do that. I think I said last year there's a better chance of me going to the moon than taking late testimony. However, when it is our fault or related, the problem is on our end, such as with this bill that the state's website was down, I'm of course going to give grace, because we do want citizens to feel like they get to be part of the process that happens here. So now I'll move forward to bill introductions, and I'll begin with 262935, which relates to the cap and opting in on the tax credit scholarship. Is there any objection? Okay, we'll consider that entered. Is there anybody else who has a bill that they would like to introduce? And let me strongly encourage you to introduce early, because I am planning that calendar, and you have much better odds of me being able to incorporate you the earlier you are. Are there any other bills? All right, seeing none, tomorrow will be another chance if you weren't quite ready for today. So we are going to move right into our hearing for HB 2034, which is authorizing school districts to employ chaplains and accept such persons as volunteers. Mr. Vice Chair, how many proponents and opponents or oral folks do we have? Oh, 5 total, okay. Because usually I'm taking about how long I think we'll spend on a bill, dividing that by the number of people who want to present, and that's how much I come up with time. So I think we'll have plenty of time to give everybody 5 minutes. Don't feel like you need to read your testimony word for word. We have it. What you might want to do is get specific about a point that you want to make and so forth. But how you do it is up to you. So I am going to start with proponents, and the first proponent I have is Braylon Boiling from who is a high school student. Braylon, will you please take to the mic and say your name? Braylon, just a moment. Our vice chair will set a timer. I forgot to bring my phone, and I usually put it up here so you can see the time. If you see him wave, we're giving you about a 30-second warning. And when you are out of time, finish the sentence that you're on. And for the audience, please don't turn that sentence into a run-on. So, all right, Mr. Vice Chair is ready. Braylon, go ahead. Welcome to committee. How old are you?
15.
15, very good. You are being braver than most people to come. There's a lot of grown-ups who won't come, so welcome to committee.
Hi, I am Braylon Bullock. I am a proponent for this bill. I first want to thank you for letting me testify today. I am here today to testify for a chaplain in Kansas schools. I am a freshman in high school and a first-year homeschooler this year. I believe that if I would have had a chaplain at school, that it would have been very beneficial to not only me, but to all students and staff at the school. I have a rare genetic condition called a urea cycle disorder that requires me to take a daily medication and restricts me to only have a certain amount of protein at each meal. It could be life-threatening if I am not allowed to have what I need. I went to USD 241 school and had many issues with my disorder and the school following doctor's orders when it came to my medicine and diet restrictions. As a student that takes medication at school and be on a low-protein diet, my doctors notified the school after many requests a 504 plan was put in place. We asked that if on the days there was too much protein in the daily offered meal, I would be allowed a salad or something with lower protein. The kitchen staff fought it, even questioning me in front of other kids why I couldn't eat the same food as other students. My parents got involved, and it was still not resolved, so my doctors got involved. The issue was finally resolved after a very intense 504 meeting between us all. With that being said, in my experience, I think that if I would have had a chaplain to go to at this time, it would have been very, very beneficial to me. Having chaplains not only help with better education, but also better mental health. I feel that if I had a chaplain to go to at this time, it would have been a safe person to talk to about my struggles that could have prayed with me about it and understand my situation. Chaplains in schools would be a great resource for kids feeling how I felt. Sad, frustrated, misunderstood, and singled out. I want to once again thank you for letting me come and give my testimony today and hope my testimony can help others and bring chaplains into schools in Kansas.
Braylon, thank you very much. You beat the clock by a lot. So we will open to questions. Is there anybody who has a question for our conferee? Okay. Braylon, you made a switch to your school from a public to homeschooling, and you were kind of feeling like having a chaplain would have made you more comfortable in school. That's the gist of what you're trying to tell us. How is your homeschooling going?
Very good.
Excellent. And what do you enjoy studying?
I really like history.
That's my favorite, too. So thank you very much. Last call for questions. Okay, Braylon, you may be seated. Thank you. Yes. Representative Riley, I'm sorry you didn't make my list, and why don't you come on up? I don't know what committee you might be missing right now. Budget.
Higher education budget. Madam Chair.
Thank you. You may begin.
Okay. And thank you, Madam Chair. 2 years ago, you were the chair when I gave this first presentation, so that was really awesome. Appreciate everything. I really do have the same heart as you do of wanting teachers to get more pay and do better. That's the heart of education. So let me start out my bill without reading my testimony a little bit and just talk about some basic things that I've heard these questions come up. Might as well talk about them now. So we had, the Supreme Court had a ruling of Kennedy versus Bremerton School District. And because of that, it basically changed a whole lot of things as far as the relationship between what's going on at schools and what can happen at schools. So, you know, we've had in the past the establishment clause, we've had free exercise clause, but now that case pretty well got rid of the lemon law, which set a certain standard for what could happen at schools. That's pretty well gone now. We have new precedent, which is basically looking at historical precedents, what has happened in the past, what happened in the 1800s or 1900s or whatever. Now, and I think we walked into this a little quick. Bill Riley from Wellington, 80th District. I know we need to do that. So I back that up a little bit. And so my little experience with schools is that I started out in a one-room country school, and it took me well enough that it took me all the way to a master's degree in special education, which I taught in special education for a while. So my topic here is talking about why we really need chaplains in schools. So I'm going to approach this from a little bit different point of view of, well, who maybe we don't need in schools. I love my audience here. And so when I was going to school, we had one superintendent for the whole county, and that superintendent signed all the report cards at the end of the year. So maybe we only need one superintendent per county. That'll rub some people. How about principals? Do we need principals? I don't remember back. We didn't have principal in one-room schoolhouse. We had a teacher, right, and students. So anybody that has been teachers in here or spouses have been teachers, you know that principals don't really run the school. It's the school secretary. That's who runs the school. So why do we need principals, right? Okay, so then the word has came up, well, where does this role of chaplains fall in? Well, we had a period of time that we needed SROs, which is our local police people coming in and trying to protect schools. We've had, in the last few years, we've had social workers coming in and trying to work with kids as far as mental kinds of things, mental challenges that they've had. We've had the change of what used to be vocational counselors. Now they have become school counselors, and they work with kids as far as with mental challenges. And we still need chaplains, because even the closest thing to that, which is the school counselors, I looked up the number from last year, and it's like, in the first 2 years, 59% of all the counselors quit. That is sad. So then we look at the other thing of why a chaplain. Well, a chaplain is not a priest, is not a minister. That is not their role. Their role is to have a heart for the people they are working with and to listen to them. That's their role. And so they can talk to the kids, yeah, that's part of it, but they can also talk to the teachers, and you know, we have stressed out teachers like crazy. They can talk to administrators. You see, administrators would have a hard time talking to a school counselor. Teachers would probably have a hard time talking to a peer. So a chaplain could fall into that category. So as we go through and talk about this bill, chaplains are very important. They have a history that's run over 300 years. They've been around for a long time in the United States. Let's take a look at that. They don't have to be necessarily paid, and if you look at my bill, they are just volunteers. They're there to help students, help teachers, and help administrators.
And time. Representative Riley, you weren't the only one who did something before they should have. I did, and I've skipped over having our reviser describe the bill. If you don't mind, I would like him to do that before you leave.
Okay.
So since this is your bill, that if anybody, if they can hear the details of the bill from Jason, and then if they have any questions for you about that, I think that's the most appropriate way to handle that if you have time. So, Jason, if you could step back up, and then Representative Riley will call you back up for questions when we're done with questions for Jason.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. House Bill 2034 was introduced last session and does, as the representative explained, authorize school districts to employ or accept on a volunteer basis individuals to serve as a chaplain to provide support services and programs for students and personnel in the school as directed by the Board of Education of the school district or the superintendent or other administrator who's designated by the board to direct those activities. There is a provision in there that the individual is not required to hold a teaching license. They would not have teaching responsibilities. They would have chaplain responsibilities. But they would, however, be subject to the same criminal background check requirements as other employees of the school district. So that requirement would be the same. And finally, there is a provision that would not allow any person to serve as chaplain if they had been convicted of or adjudicated for an offense requiring registration as a sex offender under Kansas law. So those individuals would be prohibited from being employed or otherwise volunteering as chaplains in school districts. The bill would go into effect on July 1st of this year, so it would be applicable for the 26-27 school year if enacted. With that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you. Could you please explain how the bill defines chaplain and if there's any criteria or certification that is involved in that?
This bill does not define chaplain, certified or otherwise, so it would be applied in its usual sense of the word, and the duties thereof would be directed by the administration of the school district or school in which the chaplain was serving.
Thank you. Any other questions for Jason? Seeing none, thank you, Jason. Representative Riley, we'll let you stand for questions now. Any questions, Representative Getz?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this may be Jason, or I didn't hear or read in the description of the bill, the training for chaplains. And my question is, what training for chaplains is available, and does this bill require the completion of the training before the individual occupies any position at a school? Like, before that happens, what training is available, and do they need to have that training?
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Representative. Good question. And just to preface that whole thing, I want to add on some that Jason brought out here, and that is, it's not necessarily the administration that makes this decision. It should be the school boards that's making these decisions of hiring someone, that kind of thing, or to have or not to have a chaplain. Now, what is the background of a chaplain? Well, it's different for if somebody is working in the military or working in prisons or working in hospitals. It's different. Here we're talking in schools. So I will tell you that there is at least 4 different educational background people that certify chaplains. Now, in order to do that, it's going to be different for each one of those organizations. Minimum that I've seen from the different ones is that they have to have a certain amount of hours as far as background of religious training or that kind of thing. And then typically they will have a certain amount of hours of educational training. And I have seen one of those programs, and it's completely, and I will say that my brother-in-law is a chaplain for the military, or has been a chaplain for the military. And it's very unique in the fact that, you know, when you are working with students, or you're working with teachers, or you're working with, you know, administrative people, you really have to have this separation in your mind of that you are not being a pastor, you are not promoting a religion, you are listening, giving your heart, listening, and at least in this organization that I saw their outline and stuff, I mean, they are very animate about the fact that, you know, if I have someone from a completely different religious background than I do, that if it's a general question, you answer that general question. It's a specific question, maybe it's that they need to talk to a rabbi or somebody, a priest or some other religion, you make that connection. So you're not there to promote your religion. You are there to promote your heart, listen to people, and see what's going on. Did that answer your question?
Did. I have a brief follow-up, but I don't want to take anybody's space, so I can wait.
Okay, I'll go. Okay, go ahead. We'll go to Representative Getz, Featherston.
My follow-up would be, I guess I would feel a lot more comfortable with possibly voting on this, up to the chair, of course, if that was actually in the bill, like the training requirements were in the bill. I know they're, in a sense, alluded to in the name of being a chaplain, but that mindset right there, I think, is a huge protection for districts and people, that making it as neutral as possible, but being as helpful as possible. And that's a chaplain's role. So if you would, maybe we can talk offline as a possible amendment to make that a possibility in this bill.
Representative Riley.
Just as a background on that, I've looked into some of that kind of things. I appreciate the thought, but I think that's up to the school districts. We're being pretty general here of saying, we are promoting this position into the schools. We're promoting that. We're not funding it, we are just promoting it. And so that's going to make a difference. Those school boards can set those policies of who they want or how they want to do it, or that certification. I just want to say there is a possibility here that people that are working as paras now that have relationships with kids, or people that are teachers that have relationships with kids, they could go through that certification. So then again, that's back to the school boards again to make that kinds of policy changes and decisions.
Thank you, Representative Featherston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative, can you cite multiple examples where somebody who considers themselves a chaplain was denied the opportunity to go through the regular volunteer process to be vetted by the school district so they could help out in the schools, form an after-school club, do something to facilitate helping these kids?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Representative. Good question. I don't have anything written down. I know I've attended a few chaplain organizational meetings in Wichita where there were other people there, and they are going through that process. I don't have names or anything that I can help you with. I just know that there are at least 2 or 3 people that are already working through that in Wichita.
Thank you. Representative Ballard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I probably should have added that I was on the Lawrence School Board for 8 years and president twice on that one. I know that sports has chaplains because I knew our football team, our basketball team, and part of that was they met before, they say prayers, to do whatever they did for or the games. I guess my question would be, would the chaplains be in conflict with counselors? Because one of the reasons why schools have counselors is to deal with emotional or various other problems. So would that be a conflict with what counselors do?
Representative.
Yeah, Madam Chair. I don't know that I can well answer that question. Again, I think you're alluding to the right thing. I mean, we've had chaplains in the United States history for a long time. We've had chaplains around, so it's a unique kind of position as far as handling conflicts and stuff like that. The organization that I took a look at some of their agenda, again, there's like 4 of these different ones. They do, that's one of the different things they talk about is conflict management, but they talk about, they are educated on a lot of different kinds of things. And so I can't tell you exactly everything that there is. I will say that, and I think it is on your S drive, there is some documents in there that I forwarded to you from the senator in Texas that passed this bill. I think that got in there. Is that true? Anyhow, there's some documents that are in your S drive that you can take a look at that do have some of the different kinds of research that would probably answer some of those questions, kind of thing.
Just a quick one, real quick.
Yeah, very quick.
Would this have to be mandatory, or I'm seeing it as voluntarily, right? Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, Representative Schmoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to follow up on that. It is totally an opt-in type of situation, all local control as far as determining whether or not they want to have a volunteer chaplain, determining who that's going to be, running the background check. All of that is local control. Like you said, school board, is that correct?
That is correct. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Representative Brantley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for bringing this to us today. How many other states are doing this, and do you have any information? It sounds like Texas possibly, but...
Well, there are 3 states, Madam Chair.
Yes.
There are 3 states that have passed this. I think I'll have to go look at that map again, but I think included in is Texas, and then there was Florida, and I think Mississippi. There's probably 14 other states right now that are going through their legislature as far as similar kind of bill. I will bring up, going back to the previous representative's question, Texas's bill is unique. My bill is closer to some of the bills that were heard in Nebraska and South Dakota and some of the other states, and that is the Texas bill basically said you have a choice whether you want to have chaplains or not. And if you do want to have a chaplain, that's one thing that media didn't talk about. They just talked about, well, look at how many people don't want this. The bill basically said, if you do want a chaplain, we will pay for you to have, we will pay your payroll to have a chaplain. And so that's kind of lost in the media that Texas is actually paying for their schools to have chaplains in their schools. Our bill does not say that. It just, you know, turns it out to the school boards to make that choice of either having somebody as a volunteer or part-time.
Thank you, Representative Riley. Last call. I'm sorry, I forgot that I had
You got some
Representative Pishney.
And Madam Chair, my question is more directed to Jason, if I could, please.
Very, very quickly, because we are keeping Representative Riley from committee.
I understand, and he may want to chime in on this, but my question is this: is there anything in statute today that prevents schools from hiring a chaplain or having a volunteer chaplain? Are we fixing a problem so that it opens the door for school districts to do that, or because they're being prevented today, or are we fixing a problem that doesn't exist?
Revisor Long.
I am not aware of anything in statute currently that would prohibit a school district from either employing a chaplain or allowing a chaplain to perform services on a volunteer basis in the school district.
And my final comment, Madam Chair, is if there's nothing that prevents them from doing that today, I'm back to the local control issue and let the schools decide. I'm absolutely a proponent of helping students, whether it be counselors or chaplains and so forth, because there's so much going on in their lives. So I do appreciate that piece.
Thank you. Any questions for Representative Riley? Representative, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for the time. My understanding that I had one of the folks on WebEx that was from one of those organizations to testify today, so I'm not sure whether he's on or not. So thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the time.
He should be in our list, and we will get to him. Thank you, and we'll double check. So now we will go to Paige Lovato, but that questioning took a little bit longer, and when I calculated, I hadn't realized I had skipped the revisor, so we're going to drop down to 4 minutes just to make sure I allow time for everybody. Paige, come on up, tell us your name.
Hi, my name is Paige Lovato. I'm a proponent for this bill. Thank you for allowing me to testify today. I'm an 8th grader at USD 241, and I am here today to testify on behalf of getting chaplains in Kansas schools. Some of the benefits of it are they reduce behavioral issues like bullying, anxiety, or family issues. Mental health is something a lot of kids typically around the ages of 10 to 17 struggle with. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for youths aged 10 to 14 and 15 to 24. And the youth suicide rate in Kansas has been consistently higher than the U.S. average and has increased by nearly 64% since 2001 through 2005, and it has nationally increased since 2016. Kansas is the 10th highest suicide rate in the U.S. for youth aged around 15 to 24. I have personally experienced bullying in school not only by students but also teachers. Chaplains give a safe and welcoming environment for the students and staff to express themselves to whom they believe in. Chaplains are frequently invited in after tragedies, so why not allow them in before to help prevent tragedies? I feel in my experience that being bullied by students and teachers, that a chaplain would have hope both parties. The kids and teachers that have bullied me in the past could have had something going on in their lives that was hurting them or affecting them negatively that a chaplain would have helped them go to and express themselves freely. Thank you again for allowing me to testify on what I believe will make a positive impact in Kansas schools.
Paige, you did a lovely job. Do we have questions for our conferee? Representative Ruiz, I almost gave you a promotion.
It's a matter of opinion, Madam Chair.
You know, I concur.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. Just a quick question. Do you have counselors in your school now?
We have one, I think.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I think you asked an interesting question, and I'll add a follow-up. How many students?
I'm not too sure. It's like around 200 maybe.
So one counselor for 200 students?
Yeah.
Roughly. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for our conferee? All right. We said we don't show reactions or unless it's the kids. So I think we can both give both of our young people an applause for a job well done. You may be seated. And online we have Rocky Malloy. Oh, the person is not online. Okay. If that changes, just send me a note. And I assume that Rocky Malloy is not here in person. Okay, very good. We will move to opponent in person. And our first conferee is the Kansas Association of School Boards. And I believe it's Leah today. Welcome to the hot seat. It's good to see you again.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I've already testified once today. I can't believe I forgot to turn on the mic. So my name is Leah Fleiter. I'm the Assistant Executive Director of Advocacy for the Kansas Association of School Boards, also a former 8-year member of the Manhattan-Ogden Board of Education. So happy to be here today to present our testimony on this. It's great to be in this committee. Appreciate how well you run your hearings, Madam Chair. You can see in our testimony that we are opposed to this bill because of the constitutional provision for the separation of church and state in our U.S. Constitution. We also, as Representative Pishney knows, as a former county official, we always come down on the side of local control. And so we would say that that is kind of, you know, there's no law preventing districts from employing or allowing volunteer chaplains into the schools. So, you know, don't fix a problem that doesn't exist. But we also need to note that, you know, our students have freedom of religion, and our freedom also gives us freedom from religion. And while many of us, I think, in Kansas would consider ourselves to be people of faith, I know my family is, we might not be comfortable with that in the public school setting. And when we open the door to having religious folks in the school, that might open the door to sects or other groups that perhaps we are very uncomfortable having in our public schools around minor children. And so I would just thank you for this opportunity and stand for questions.
Just will point out that the bill does qualify the background check, because I think,
Yes, yes.
that's a
Yeah,
priority for all of us. Any questions for Leah Fleiter? Representative Getz?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm reading in, we didn't get to hear from Rocky, so I pulled up the testimony, and it says this. I just want to get your response because it's kind of the other side of the argument. 2034 is a permissive, liberty-preserving bill. It does not mandate religion, compel participation, or impose a chaplain on any school district. Instead, it affirms the constitutional authority of local school boards in Kansas to deploy school chaplains if they so choose, consistent with the First Amendment's protection of free exercise of religion. I guess I would just, your response to that,
Right.
as far as the
Madam Chair.
the affirming side of the bill as well, that it's not really, in a sense, trying to violate what you're saying that it's trying to violate.
Ms. Fleiter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, Representative, I appreciate that question. And I think we always want to come down to, you know, our respect for the United States Constitution and for state law. and the United States Constitution provides for separation of church and state. And so if you allow religious personnel in the public schools, and I will defer to the reviser because, sorry for my corny joke, I'm not an attorney and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I don't know if that opens up a limited public forum type of thing, so correct me if I'm wrong on that, if it's okay for me to make that reference, Madam Chair. So I would respectfully disagree with the conferee whose testimony you cited.
Representative Steele and then Representative Featherston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kind of piggybacking off of what the representative, my colleague, was talking about, can you point to where in the Constitution specifically it talks about separation of church and state?
I think it's been, oh, sorry, Madam Chair, is that okay?
You may.
It's been interpreted in various decisions, and again, I'm sorry, Representative, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I'm not an attorney, so I hate to answer any further than that.
Madam Chair.
Quickly.
Thank you. I just am struggling to understand when you're talking about that we have separation of church and state, and you've said a couple different times it's in the Constitution, and I just want to be able to look it up to find out where that is. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, do you want me to reply, or?
You may if you wish.
I understand that. It's just there's a long body, I understand, of Supreme Court rulings that have established that in my understanding as a non-lawyer. So thank you. I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
It's an interesting thing because what establishes a religion and a free practice thereof, and if we do already have chaplains with sports teams, then, all of those things, I think we all wish we had Jason's law degree right now. Jason, do you have anything you'd like to clarify or help us shed light for us?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, the First Amendment with respect to the right of free exercise of religion has two parts. One is the free exercise of religion. The second is the prohibition against the government establishing a religion. The long history of case law on the Establishment Clause has lots of different standards depending on the way in which the government is trying to act that has been challenged as an establishment, and so therefore it's hard to say with certainty how a school district's employment of a chaplain might be a violation of the Establishment Clause simply because the way in which the chaplain is hired, their services that they're going to perform, and their own background could all come into play in that legal analysis.
Thank you very much. And it seems like chaplain isn't not reserved for any one faith. It's a multi-faith concept in its everyday usage.
Madam Chair, my understanding is that not every chaplain is of the same faith, that there are multiple faiths among the chaplaincy in the United States. So again, the chaplain that is employed, how they are employed, and the services they perform would all be factored into that analysis.
Thank you very much. Thanks for letting us put you on the spot. We'll go to Representative Featherston and then Representative Brantley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Fleiter, as you travel the state talking to your members, your member boards who represent their communities that elected them, do you get requests for chaplains in the schools, or is there more a request for more mental health support through qualified professionals like social workers, counselors, and other certified staff?
Madam Chair? Thank you for the question. We have not received that kind of input. I have been working for KSB for 10 years and traveling around the state about 2,000 miles every summer. We have not received that request at a member meeting. I did note in my testimony that we are a little bit concerned that having chaplains in the schools might inadvertently lead to a lack of counselors or psychologists, and we would hate for that to somehow be seen as maybe a substitute for a mental health professional. I Madam Chair, I saw your face, and I understand that it might be an unintended consequence, so.
No, I was just trying to follow your flow of thinking, and I'm not sure that chaplains prevent a counselor's going to say, or a district is going to say, we don't need counselors, but it's an interesting thing to think about. So thank you. I think exploration of ideas is important. Representative Brantley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess my question comes along the same line. The chaplain program would be a voluntary, not a mandatory?
That's my understanding from the bill.
Do schools have counselors that are voluntary, or are they hired as part of their district?
Madam Chair. Thank you. To my knowledge, counselors, school psychologists are, as you know, either a district employee or perhaps they might be employed by an interlocal or by the mental health intervention team pilot program, which has been, such a great effort by the legislature. And as I always say, huge props to former Representative Brenda Landwehr for her leadership on that. So as far as I know, they're paid.
Madam Chair, can I?
As far as you know, who is paid?
I'm sorry, counselors or psychologists in the school setting.
Okay, Representative Brantley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if a chaplain is volunteer in the school district, they couldn't replace a counselor that's paid as a hired position in the district, correct?
Madam Chair, thank you. Okay, I understand. I think I understand where you're going now. Our concern is that, as you know, we have a shortage of qualified school counselors and school psychologists and teachers, frankly. And so our concern is that inadvertently, as if those shortages continue, we might see, well, we've got some chaplains and, we only had one school psychologist and she retired, but, we have these volunteers in place. Let's just go with that. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Last call for questions for Ms. Fleiter, Representative Chauncey, and then we're going to move to our next conferee.
Just real quick, I guess. I know they have the counselors, we have the psychologists that work with school districts. What's wrong with giving the families and the children the options of having a chaplain at the school if they prefer not to see the psychologist, if they're going to volunteer effort?
Madam Chair, thank you, Representative Chauncey. We certainly agree with that. We just feel that there's a lot of opportunity to take advantage of that spiritual counsel outside of the school day, and that's where we would prefer it rest.
A follow-up?
So, but then that disadvantage of having that opportunity, if they have a problem during the school day and they don't want to talk to the psychologist or the guidance counselor, they don't have that opportunity to go speak with the chaplain if that's what they would prefer, is my point on that.
Thank you. Excellent questions. Ms. Fleiter, thank you for being with us
Thank you, Madam
again.
Chair.
And I am going to pray I say it right. Welcome, Rabbi Moita Reber. I was close. I butchered
Thank
the
you,
first
Madam Chair.
name. I'm sorry.
Because it's a new year and there's some new members on the committee, I'll just take a moment to introduce myself. I'm Rabbi Moti Reber. I'm the executive director of an organization called Kansas Interfaith Action. We're a statewide advocacy organization that works with the faith community and Kansans of faith and conscience on a variety of justice issues. We have affiliations and partnerships with the United Methodists, with the ELCA Lutherans, with the Congregationalists, and with the Episcopalian Diocese, and dozens of congregations and thousands of Kansans of faith and conscience throughout the state. And I'm opposed to HB 2034. I testified on this bill 2 years ago, I guess it was. I don't think you were the chair then, if I'm not mistaken.
You are correct.
It's the same bill, so I have basically the same testimony. And I will say that my concerns fall into two major areas, one of which has already been talked about, which is qualifications, and then the other one is accountability. So qualifications, we have chaplains who are members of KIFA. I have people who are colleagues of mine in my rabbinic association who are chaplains. They go through rigorous training that was referred to by the sponsor of the bill, but this does not require any of that. It doesn't require even a college degree. What's missing from the bill is a definition of what a chaplain is and what they're supposed to do, educational requirements, training in chaplaincy, endorsement from a religious organization, clinical testing, clinical field experience, continuing education requirements, supervision from a qualified chaplain. None of that is in this bill. The only requirement of this bill is that you not be a registered sex offender. Okay. The second one is accountability. I belong to a rabbinic association. If I mess up or whatever, you can go to my association and have me disciplined. That is not required by this bill. Chaplains have, are they trained in HIPAA and confidentiality? Do they have an endorsing organization? Are they responsible for a professional code of ethics? None of that is in this bill. And also, it would be better, not that I want to improve what I think is a pretty bad bill, but it would be better that the chaplain would be required to be hired by the school district so that at least they can be supervised and possibly sanctioned or fired. I'll add two additional pieces to this. Well, actually, maybe three. One is that clergy are not considered mandatory reporters at this stage in Kansas, but school employees are. So where does that, how do you square that circle? Which one would be in charge? Are chaplains who are hired by school districts going to be subject to the stricter standard? The other thing is, speaking as a religious minority, I would be very concerned about this. We're concerned that the bill would serve as a way to get proselytization into schools. That's a concern. I don't know if that's an Establishment Clause concern. I'm not testifying about the Establishment Clause, but I think it might be an end around to get proselytization into schools. I'd be very concerned about that. And also, if you hire Christians, or if you make this a law, then you probably have to hire religious minorities. And last year, is that 30 seconds? And last year there was you remember there was a protest here by a religious minority that got a lot of attention and a lot of upset. Also, I would want to see, just one more thing. I would want to see that it would be required that parents sign in. We have this thing about can't take tests unless your parents approve. I would want to see parents have to opt into this in order for this to be fair and to protect people who don't want to be chaplained.
Thank you. I am a strong advocate of parents' rights, and I asked a lot of the qualification questions earlier and those things, and I think my takeaway from Representative Riley was that it was the local district who would set these things that you're concerned about, because I share the concern you want there to be safeguards and qualifications and so on. So I think his intent is at the local level. Would you like to respond to that?
Well, I'd be concerned about that because I think that there should be a uniform standard, as there is with the curriculum and anything else in the state.
And there's where it's fun to be us, because sometimes we hear local control and sometimes we hear a uniformity, and when is the right use of each one. So
I'll also point out one more thing. Texas passed this law, but no school district in Texas has opted to hire chaplains.
Okay,
even though money is involved.
Any questions for Rabbi? Representative Boatman. And I should have warned you that you're in the seat that's hardest for me to see, so thank you for putting your hand so high.
Yes, thank you. Earlier we heard some testimony about how chaplains aren't supposed to have any denominational emphasis and provide access to appropriate faith denominations if necessary. And you had just spoken about minority religions. And I was just wondering, what concerns, if any, do you have about the effect of the screening process of administration on which chaplains are actually hired or volunteered?
Thank you, Representative. This bill doesn't have any screening requirements. The question about local control, a district could just hire or just accept this and put anybody in there without any of these requirements. There's no standardization of the requirement here. So that a school, I mean, they would get sued, but a school district could say our chaplains have to be conservative Christians or whatever, and that would not, it's not limited by this bill. So although there are chaplains, you don't need to have qualifications, as I've already stated, but although there are chaplains of other religious denominations, it also depends on availability and the majority kind of vibe of the community too. So I think it's did I answer that question? Can I ask her to follow up?
You did answer it, yes.
Okay, thank you. Good job.
You're welcome. Any other questions, Representative Featherston?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Military chaplains have been cited of like, they have it, why shouldn't we have it? Could you go into what you know about the certification process for military chaplains and I guess what differentiates them from this bill?
So I actually served as, I have pertinent experience. I actually served as the chaplain at the Jewish chaplain at the disciplinary barracks at Fort Leavenworth for I think it was 3 years in the early 2010s. And I was brought, so they have a strict kind of, strict, whatever the prisoner asks for is what they're allowed to get. So they don't check your foreskin or whatever about whether you're Jewish or not. Excuse the blue. So that if somebody comes and says, I want to be Jewish, I mean, there's a limit to the number of times you can switch. But if somebody says, I want a Jewish chaplain, they have to provide a Jewish chaplain. But I only serve the Jewish chaplains. The Jewish prisoners. So I'm not there for the whole body. They're not sending me to the Muslim group or the Wiccan group or whatever. They're sending me to the people who requested me. So I don't have chaplaincy. I don't have chaplaincy certification. But in that particular case, because I was going to people who would ask for a rabbi, that's why I was qualified to do that. But I wasn't just there for the general population.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll move along. Our next conferee, Laurel Birchfield. Hi, Laurel, welcome. Come on up. And please make sure the blue light is on.
Yes, I believe it's on. Hi, Madam Chair.
You may begin.
Hi, Madam Chair. Hi, Committee. Thank you so very much for the opportunity to testify on this bill. My name is Laurel Birchfield. I am the Advocacy Director at Mainstream Coalition. We were founded over 30 years ago by faith-based and community leaders who were concerned about our foundational principle of democracy, the separation of church and state. Now, I am also not a lawyer, so I'm very grateful to Jason for giving that overview earlier about where that foundational principle lies in our Constitution and our First Amendment. But I absolutely feel that this is a bill that could violate that principle and could threaten the separation of church and state with regards to our public schools. Now, you've heard a lot of what I was going to share with you today about our concerns with this bill, from the way that it may allow students access to a religion that they don't affiliate with, the way that the bill allows for employment of these individuals, in a sense, using public dollars to pay for faith-based positions. You've also heard how Texas passed this bill back in 2023 and did not have a single school district adopt it. In fact, over 300 chaplains in the state of Texas submitted a letter during the process of this bill introduction that said they also opposed this bill in the state of Texas. So as you've heard from people on this committee as well as your conferees, this is a bill that is a solution in search of a problem. Chaplains are already able to volunteer in our schools. They're already able to provide faith-based services outside of the school to students in their communities. We do not need something that privileges religion in our school districts. And Madam Chair, I'm so grateful to hear that you have concerns about parental rights with this bill as well, because that is the heart of my concern as a parent. I am an atheist, married to a Jewish man, raising 2 young girls in the public school system. And if I had a school that had a religious chaplain in my school's building, and my children had access to that chaplain, or were encouraged, or perhaps even coerced into participating in meetings with that chaplain as part of their daily routine, I absolutely would question whether or not I have parental rights to object and where that lies and how I go about it. I think this is a problem that we simply don't need to encourage in our school districts because chaplains already have the ability to interact with students and to volunteer with our schools. So for all of those reasons, as well as the very valid points that we've heard from the conferees ahead of me, I encourage you to vote no on this bill and to protect the separation of church and state in our public schools. Thank you.
Ms. Virgil, I just want to begin with, just want to make sure that my words were heard correctly. I wasn't specifying for this bill on parents' rights. Across the board, I have a history of opt-in with parents and parents being allowed to request alternative assignments across the board. I think a parent's role in school and protecting that role is very important. So thank you for mentioning that. Do we have questions for Ms. Birchfield? Representative Chauncey.
Yeah, just real quick, I guess. You're saying oppose this because you don't want your kids to meet with the chaplain or whatever, but there's also going on in the schools currently with the psychologists and the counselors, seeing your kids multiple times without parents' consent on that additionally. So do you have a problem with that also?
I don't have a problem with my children being able to have access to trained mental health professionals in our school district because I think that is the appropriate place for them to receive those supports with that background.
My question was without your knowledge.
Without my knowledge, I have a relationship with my school district and with my school that I will have access to that information. To be very clear, Madam Chair, my concern with the parental rights piece of this is centered on the faith-based position of the chaplain.
Okay, thank you for your clarification. Any further questions? All right, seeing none, thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time to be here today. I believe I have hit all the conferees, but I also would like to check and see if the person who was supposed to be online has joined us. They have not. Is there anybody I may have accidentally missed? Seeing none, we actually finished a little earlier. I didn't. Is there someone on the back row that I didn't see?
I don't know. I submitted yesterday, but I didn't know there was a cutoff. So if you were asking if you missed anybody.
Sir, please come to the podium. Did you submit written oral testimony?
No.
Or just written testimony?
I just submitted that I would like to testify. I
Okay.
wasn't aware of
All right, so
the process and such.
Okay. What is your name?
Luke Schreiber, I'd emailed you yesterday.
Okay. Michelle, did we receive that? Don't recall right now. Okay. Since we did have a problem with the website being down, I'm certainly going to let you testify, but I would like you, when you're done, to swap information with Michelle so that we can meet our legal requirements to make sure we have the written copy of yours. So thank you so much. Sir, don't walk away yet. We're letting you testify.
I was going to get my notes.
Oh, please do.
I'm sorry.
And very clearly say your name and if you're an opponent or proponent of the bill.
Okay. My name is Luke Schreiber, and I'm a proponent. Madam Chairman and members, Chairwoman, and members of the committee, thank you for your time and service here today and taking some time to hear folks out. Just a little less than 2 years ago, when this bill was being talked about in a different form, the National Center for Education Services suggested that Kansas ranked second. Not in a bowl game, not in best license plate art, or even friendliness, but rather second in nation for teachers leaving their job. Perhaps somewhat of a consolation prize was we were not first, as Vermont was. Those things aside, some of the feedback received pointed to, yes, the pay and cost living discrepancies and rising expectations beyond the usual scope of duty, but also largely to burnout, undue hostility among administration and politics, rising mental health challenges among students, and generally just being worn out. I'm a youth minister from a small town of 130 people, way less than there is in this house here today. I've spent the last 18 years or so working with rural students, trying to give them just as good opportunities as they could have anywhere else in Kansas, if not better. In our rural districts back home, whether we always celebrate it or not, the school community is a huge influence on our community life, one of the primary employers in our area. It helps serve and develop the young people alongside the rest of the community. But I didn't need the NCES to tell me that teachers are struggling or that students are. I see it daily in the student weariness at the end of the day, the frustration among teachers, as I meet them at the store, at the cafe, in the pews, or when they fall asleep during my sermon. I see it as parents and in parents as we desire more than ever for our students, but we somehow feel we aren't making headway. I mention all of that because Bill 2034 has a facet that's easily missed. Yes, it stands to potentially benefit 450,000 plus public school students with an extra layer of care, intentional active listening, and just letting students know that they are seen and known alongside counselors, but not in place of counselors. But the hidden facet is this. It benefits the 40 to 50,000 teachers, staff, and administrators that we have in our school as well. What's underappreciated is that chaplaincy is for all the staff. And then it has a trickle-down effect for students through staff. One superintendent in Texas, the Wiley Independent School District, his name is Joey Light. They currently have chaplains. They signed on for it. I spoke with them this last week. He uses it as a staff retention asset. He says, he was mentioning about how his teachers can feel seen and heard and noticed. Chaplains are first and foremost listeners, confidants, a caring presence. Their involvement in school is not compulsory or, as a student, forced to speak with them. They are simply available. Last two things. In rural areas, we often lack access to some of the things other districts have. And yet there's a plentiful resource of faith communities and leaders in these places. They may not be certified in some of the ways we desire them to be certified, with some of the different mental health certifications, but they certainly have experience and care behind them. These folks can serve in some capacity, lest we forget that they are there and well-equipped. They can drive community interaction and ownership. Lastly, it's this. I appreciate that this bill puts the decision in the local district and the board's lap. They know their communities and the context they live in. My wife fondly reminds me that I don't always make the right decisions, but I made some good ones because she was one of them. Putting our trust in the local school boards to decide if they want to legally do what they can already legally do, but we have maybe perhaps at times confused them with, is probably a trustworthy place to park it, even though I'm not in favor of making a problem where there maybe doesn't seem to be one. But these same folks have made some great decisions across the years because they chose you to represent them. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Schreiber. And is that Schreiber?
Yes, just like Mr. Schreiber.
Thank you. Do we have questions for our conferee? Mr. Ruiz, Representative Ruiz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here today. When you introduced yourself, do you have school children?
So we currently homeschool. So my biological children are at home, but yes, 5 of them, 12 to 3. And then I'm regularly active with my youth in the public school. In fact, I was there this morning, so.
Okay, one more, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
So in your testimony, you're speaking as a homeschooler and not a public school parent.
Right, we are currently not a public school parent.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Representative Pishney.
Just a clarification. Thank you, Madam Chair. You said a small town, a small community, or whatever. Help me understand where that is so that I can put it in perspective to Kansas.
Yeah, so Soldier, Kansas, we're the headwaters of the creek.
It's close to my hometown.
Okay.
Very good. Any additional questions for our conferee? Thank you very much, and I'm sorry that we missed your testimony before. So, and Michelle is helping connect there. The agenda will be coming out shortly. On Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, or yes, okay, all of a sudden I wanted to think President's Day, but that's too soon. So we will not be meeting then, of course. You will notice this week, I was not prepared that we were going to be pro forma on Fridays, so I did move the bill that we were going to hear on Friday to next week. I enjoy having you all speak to me, so I made that change. On Tuesday, we will have a joint session, that's what we're working towards with the Senate Ed, to talk about literacy and get an update on the blueprint for literacy. I think we made I'm also on that task force, and I think we made a lot of changes that I think you guys will want to hear about, and there will be a funding request. So I want to make sure everyone has a really good chance to hear that. And I think there will be some other bills coming up there. So as soon as I know those, I always like to give you guys a heads up, even if it's not quite time for the agenda to go live. I just drew a blank on the very most important thing I saved for, here's what I saved for last. Those of you who were on the floor already heard me say this. We are asking Kansans to continue to support the move to science of reading with millions of taxpayer funds. And I wanted to make available to legislators or those who had an interest in understanding what that is, that I have samples of curriculum in my office on my table, and as long as either Michelle or I are there, you're welcome to come by and take a look at it, because I think it really helps you understand the work that we're really trying to do with literacy. So thank you all very much. I'd like to tell you we're not going to ever have a Friday this year, but I do believe we have so many important things to talk about that it could happen, but please know I'll try to do that sparingly and balance how many bills we hear in a day and how much action we take versus coming in on a Friday. Managing time, I think, is the most difficult job of the chairmanship. Thank you all for your help today and your very good questions. Thank you to our conferees and our guests who were here with us today and those who are watching us online. If I see no further business or announcements, then we are adjourned 10 minutes early.